Hey guys, this is Dr. Megan, sport and performance psychologist. I wanted to do a video on the barriers to confidence. Now, if you have not watched my video on confidence, I want to encourage you to go pause this, watch that first, because now in this video, we are going to cover the barriers or the things that get in the way. Now, the reason that I like talking about the things that get in the way is that we're not going to make these things disappear. However, if, for instance, I know there's a pole in front of me, a barrier between me and wherever I want to go, if I know that it's there, I can do something to help me work around it and go around it, work with that barrier rather than, getting knocked down by it every time. So when it comes to confidence, really important for us to talk about some of those barriers to confidence, otherwise known as your belief that you have the skills necessary to perform successfully or successfully perform a desired behavior. And so barrier number one when it comes to confidence is the automatic negative focus that we as human beings have. So this automatic negative focus, let's say in practice you do 10 rounds of a drill. 9 of them you do pretty well. 1, no, did not go well, made a mistake. I as human beings are biologically programmed to remember that one that you did not do well. So you will walk away from that practice replaying that over and over in your head. Not helpful when it comes to confidence. So that first barrier is that automatic negative focus that we have. Secondly, comparison to others. So you as an athlete are generally practicing with and around other people and can see them. And so often those comparisons automatically happen of how much better or stronger or faster someone is. And that comparison is the thief of confidence. Very huge barrier when it comes to building confidence. Barrier number 3, performance outcomes versus performance progress. So what I mean by this outcome is that, by this barrier, when we're talking performance outcomes. So in athletics, we hear outcome all the time. That's what's reported. That's what, you get recruited. I mean, it's just that is the thing, which great, we're not going to change that. However, many times athletes look to those outcome-based moments and measures to build their confidence, which is a problem for a couple reasons. First and foremost, you don't control it. Period. It's a hard truth. There are so many things that influence outcome that if we're looking for outcome to validate, yes, I'm good at this, or I have these skills, we are basically handing out control of our confidence to other people because outcome is not something that we 100% control. Progress, on the other hand, the things that you are doing in practice each day, working on, the process of your sport, those things you control 100%, whether you are doing them or not. And so when we really focus on the outcome over progress, we are engaging in a barrier to confidence for not only that reason, but it brings us to barrier number 4, is if we're not really looking at practice, we are missing a lot of opportunity to build confidence. Let me tell you why. So I want to encourage you to think about the ratio of practice to competition in your world. So let me tell you a little bit about a study that was done a few years ago with some NBA athletes. The researchers were looking at how often are these athletes on the court together in practice versus in competition. They recorded the number of minutes over the course of a season, and what they found, 93% of the time that those athletes were together on the court, they were practicing. Note, that does not include any additional practice those athletes did on their own. 93%. 7% those athletes together on the court was in a game. And so maybe your ratio of competition to practice is not, 93-7, but it goes to really kind of communicate the point that if you're not looking to practice, AKA those moments when you're focusing on progress, you're executing your sport, you're really intentionally working on some things, you are missing a huge chunk of opportunity to establish and identify evidence to support that you have those skills necessary to successfully perform, the behaviors in your sport. And so yes, we can still include outcome to help us build confidence, but that cannot be the only thing. Next barrier to confidence, number 5, mistakes. Mistakes are things that every athlete makes at every level. However, many athletes very much like strive for this idea of perfect. And sometimes, to be fair, coaches are not very supportive of this. Like, it's like, oh, you make a mistake, you get pulled out of the game. And so, coach, if you are a coach watching this, stop doing that. Not helpful at all. So anyway, mistakes, very much those things that can kind of shake that foundation of confidence. But let's think about this expectation of perfect for a moment. Perfect is this sort of ideal world or place that we're trying to get to, but it's sort of the biggest lie because it totally does not exist. Now think about whatever sport you want to think about in terms of your favorite athlete. Now, playing at whatever level they're playing at, and some at like the elite high professional level, they still make mistakes when they are in a game. And so if those athletes, like, they're not perfect, how are you going to be? Silly. The goal is progress. And so mistakes, they are definitely one of those pretty large trip ups when it comes to confidence. And so kind of challenging that belief of I need to be perfect versus like, hey, mistakes, I can learn from these things versus I should avoid these things. Very, very helpful. The next barrier to confidence oftentimes is fear. Whether it's fear of making the mistake, fear of, well, what if I don't get, recruited here? Or what will my coach say if I don't do this? Or what if I maybe try as hard as I am trying, but what if I'm maybe not as good as I feel I need to be? Or what if I'm putting all of this time into this sport and effort, but I don't reach, some goal I have? And so whatever those fears are, they can kind of creep in and really, be a barrier and a bit of a thief of confidence as well. And now the final barrier, and this happens more and more the longer you play. And so this barrier is the idea of I'm supposed to do that well. And so for athletes that have been engaging and learning their sport for a long time, this barrier oftentimes tends to creep up with some of those skills that maybe they've been doing for a long time or for a while, the more basic, moments and things in your sport. There can then this be idea of like, well, I'm expected to do that well, I'm supposed to do it. So the fact that I'm doing it is like not a big deal, so it doesn't count. False. Just because you did it before and have been doing it for a while, like does not guarantee 100% that you are executing that thing all the time. And it might be a foundational item and component of your sport, but thank goodness you're able to do it because then you're able to build these other things. And so with that barrier, identifying and giving yourself the credit, even for some of these things you might view as basic or you've been doing and able to do for a while, they are still some very good opportunities to do and gain some evidence for confidence for, because that you're supposed to do it well. Well, there's millions of other people in the world that absolutely cannot do that thing. So give yourself the credit. So I hope this is helpful in talking a little bit about those barriers to confidence.